What a way to kick off a first episode for Leagues with Ethan Dicken. Day after the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 58, Kansas City Chiefs take down the San Francisco 49ers 25-22. Patrick Mahomes lights it up. Game goes to overtime, basically another quarter of overtime. So basically 5 quarters of football before, 209 days until the next game for the NFL. Just overall first reactions to the game. I watched it at a bar here in Columbia, Missouri. Most of them are all Chiefs fans. I was rooting for the Chiefs. I'll come on and say that first of all, but great atmosphere. I know most people talk about the commercials, whatever. I'm here to talk about the game, and the game was a great game. Slow start in the first half for both teams, not many points being put up, but that second half and that overtime was a great period for football and great for the National Football League. So, first things first, Chiefs win 25-22, back-to-back Super Bowls. First time since the 2003, 2004 Patriots. Patrick Mahomes wins his third Super Bowl ring. Andy Reid, third Super Bowl ring. Travis Kelce, third Super Bowl ring. You know, just unbelievable. I coming into the game, I had the Chiefs winning this Super Bowl. I thought it was gonna be close. I thought both teams could win either way. I thought it would come down to, last drive, last possession, stop or touchdown or whatnot. And that became the case, going into overtime. And Patrick Mahomes wins it, throws a throws a zip screen to McCole Hardman with 6 seconds left to win 25-22. And I'll first start here with Mahomes and Andy Reid. I mean, they put on a master class in that second half. Those second half adjustments. I mean, Andy Reid is one of the best at making second half adjustments, and they did it. And Mahomes, was doing anything and everything he could to win that game. I think he finished with 300. Yeah, he finished with 333 yards, two passing touchdowns, one bad interception. Wasn't really good interception, but 34 for 46 completion to attempts. He ran for 66 yards as well. I mean, Mahomes, when it comes to playoff time, he will use his legs, and people don't, necessarily give him the props that he should with his ability to use his legs. And in that second half, they needed every single yard out of him when it was on fourth downs or third downs or, seasons on the line and, 49ers were up 3 points and then overtime. Mahomes was using his legs and it helped them come to victory. And it's just to sit here and say that Mahomes in his fourth Super Bowl already, he's 28 years old, in his fourth Super Bowl already, and to say he hasn't hit 30 yet and just getting started with three touchdowns already, three Super Bowl trophies, three Super Bowl MVPs. I mean, it's incredible to watch. I'm a fan of Patrick Mahomes personally. I coming into the league when he started that first year, I knew he was gonna be great. I didn't know if he's gonna be this great, but I knew he was gonna be, arguably the most talented quarterback in NFL history, and I think he is now that has reached that level. And you know, this is he's just getting started. And as they said, after they won the Super Bowl, that Kelsey's coming back for a three-peat. He's coming back for the three-peat. Andy Reid, he said he's gonna be back for next season. I kind of was shocked that he already said that. Maybe emotionally he said that, but maybe down the line he'll think differently. But it was it was great to watch excellence and play at that highest level and for it to be rewarded. I mean, if you look back to the Chiefs throughout the season, it was just a tough go for them. I didn't think they were going to get to the Super Bowl. I thought they'd maybe win a playoff game and then lose to the Ravens or something like that. But they just hung around in there and they just made plays when they needed to make plays. And hats off to Mahomes, Andy Reid, that entire coaching staff. The defense, which does not get enough credit, the defense needs more credit. The defense, I think, is the reason why they won the Super Bowl and was in this position to win the Super Bowl in the first place. You know, shutting in, Lamar Jackson down, Josh Allen a little bit down, in those playoff games. Steve Spagnuolo, you don't view him as a top defensive coordinator, that he needs to get another head coaching job. At his age, it probably won't happen, which is good for the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Mahomes. He'll be sticking around there for next year. So Steve Spagnuolo deserves a ton of credit for the Super Bowl more than any other, Super Bowl run that the Chiefs have ever had. This team was led by that defense. George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Justin Reed, Trent McDuffie, the new mix of new guys and old guys. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed as well. I mean, this team, this defense, more specifically, deserves a ton of credit. I mean, the 49ers didn't even have a bad offensive showing. Christian McCaffrey had 22 touches for only 80 yards. I mean, that secondary just did a great job on Brandon Ayuk, 3 receptions for 49 yards. Deebo Samuel, 3 receptions for 33 yards. Kittle, 2 receptions for 4 yards. He wasn't there, didn't show up for the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's, more scheme wise. Kyle Shanahan needs to get him the ball more. I'll get into Shanahan a little bit later, but just top to bottom, this Chiefs team just does it, and they deserve to win. I mean, say what you want about the Chiefs, say what you want about, stuff off the field, they deserve to win. I mean, they do what it takes to win in high pressure situations, down 10. Mahomes and this Chiefs team has been in every single Super Bowl that they've won, down 10, at least, you know, 10 points. So just masterclass from this Chiefs team and this Chiefs organization, and credit to everyone top down. I mean, they do it the right way. And this was kind of the year to get the Chiefs, with that wide receiver core, big question mark, the biggest question mark the whole season for them. And they'll just get better, with Rice, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman caught the winning touchdown. They brought him back in a trade from the Jets this season. So he wasn't even supposed to be on the team at the beginning of the year. So, you know, tip your hat off to the Chiefs. But, I'm gonna I'm gonna move on to the 49ers now. And there's been a ton of talk, today and last night about the overtime period with Kyle Shanahan, taking the ball first. And personally, I don't have a problem with him taking the ball first and wanting to go score first against the Chiefs. The thing is if they score a touchdown on that drive instead of getting a field goal, all the pressure's on the Chiefs. And granted, the Chiefs scored a touchdown on their drive, which then 49ers would have gotten the ball back, and a field goal would have won the 49ers the game. And that's what Kyle Shanahan said in his press conference after the game. He said, hey, we were thinking about the third possession, not the first possession, because, you know, after the first two possessions, both teams get a possession in the playoffs. That third possession, if you score 3 points or a touchdown, doesn't matter. You win the game. And I completely agree with that play call and that thought process by Kyle Shanahan. And another thing too is, let's say the Chiefs did get the ball first. Mahomes goes and gets a field goal or gets a touchdown. All that pressure's on Brock Purdy then. In that moment, the Super Bowl, millions of people are watching around the world, and you got to go get at least a field goal or a touchdown to go win the game. And personally, I wouldn't want to put Brock Purdy in that situation. I would want him to go, first, get the pressure off of him, go get a field goal, maybe go get a touchdown, and not go second, behind Mahomes. And not knowing that you have to score touchdowns or your season's over. I don't want that pressure on Brock Purdy in his second year as a starter. I would not want that for him. So I do agree with Shannon. I don't think he deserves a blame for that. That did not lose in the Super Bowl. You know, the only reason to go second, I believe, for me personally, would be because you know what you need to get. But I just can't trust Brock Purdy in that situation to I need a touchdown or we lose the Super Bowl. I just don't like Brock Purdy in that situation. And now maybe, okay, let's say they get back to the Super Bowl next year or the next few years, then maybe I would go second. And they probably learned their lesson. They probably would go second, but I can't blame Kyle Shanahan for going first with the ball after winning the coin toss to start overtime. I mean, there were plenty of chances for the 49ers defense to get off the field too. There was a couple fourth downs on that possession for the Chiefs in overtime, and defense couldn't get the stop. I mean, none of us would be talking about how Kyle Shanahan made a bad decision going first if 49ers kicked a field goal 22-19 and then Chiefs, get stopped and they lose the Super Bowl. So I don't agree with the blame for Kyle Shanahan in that circumstance, but he does deserve blame as it pertains to his players not knowing the overtime rules. I mean, so many players like Kyle Juszczyk have said after the Super Bowl, we didn't know the overtime rules. And I mean, personally, I was flabbergasted. I've known the playoff rules, switching after that Chiefs Bills, overtime thriller in Kansas City a few years back, that both teams get a possession in playoff overtime rules. So that is mind blowing to me. Kyle Shanahan needs to do a better job of prepping his guys for situations like that. How do your guys not know that the overtime rules in the Super Bowl, in this biggest stage, in this biggest spot, that they don't understand what the situation is for the team? And that Kyle Shanahan deserves a big knock on that. I know he's been taking a lot of blame today, but that is 100% something that he deserves blame for, coming out of the Super Bowl 58 against the Chiefs. Another thing too that I liked about the 49ers was Brock Purdy looked really relaxed to start the game. I thought the Chiefs would go out to an early lead and that, Purdy would look shaken up to start the game. That was not the case. Purdy looked Purdy looked like it was any other regular game. The last few playoff games against the Lions and the Packers for the 49ers, the Brock Purdy's come up a little bit, a little shaky to start things, but he looked great to start out the Super Bowl, which I was very shocked to see. Uh, didn't turn the football over either. I mean, that is a huge thing if you're the 49ers quarterback. Just manage the game and don't turn the football over. And he completely did that. I mean, he had 23 for 38, 255 yards, one passing touchdown, only sacked once. I thought he used his legs a little bit more. He only had 3 rushes for 12 yards. I think maybe that is something Shanahan should try to, get Brock Purdy more involved in with his running ability. I think that's a underrated part of his game. Um, but he looked really relaxed. I was shocked to see that. I thought the Chiefs would come out, 10 nothing early or 14 nothing early, and that was just not the case. Uh, but a big thing that Shanahan or Purdy or even these wide receivers need to take some blame is Kittle, Debo were nowhere, and Ayuk were really nowhere to be found. The only like true, like, I guess, wide receiver, like, route runner on this team is Brandon Ayuk. And Debo is not a legit, route runner. He can go 30 yards down the field, make a double move, and go get the ball. George Kittle's not that type of, receiving tight end like Travis Kelce is either. He's more of a physical, blocking, short yardage, catch and run type of tight end. And I don't necessarily know who's to blame for it, but you need to get the ball more to Kittle and Debo, and Ayuk. I mean, Jawan Jennings is a better route runner than Debo and Kittle, and he had 4 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown, along with that, big bomb to Christian McCaffrey to get the 49ers on the board. So, uh, in the touchdown realm. So I do think, that is a question mark for the 49ers is when you have to throw the football, can you get down the field and throw the football? Christian McCaffrey, I know he was going to get touches and get the ball. 22 rushes for 80 yards. I mean, that wasn't going to do it for the 49ers. They needed Christian McCaffrey to get over 100 yards for them to be able to be in this game and run the football a little bit better. And Christian McCaffrey was doing everything on for the receivers as well. 8 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, he was basically trying to carry this offense because Kittle and Debo were really just nowhere to be found. And I don't know who's to blame for it, but that's got to be a big concern for this 49ers group going into next season is when we have to throw the football and make plays down the field against the Mahomes, against the Allen, against the Burrow, against the whoever, can we get wide receivers down the field to make some big plays instead of, running our play action in short routes and just running these stretches or running, the screen passes to Debo and CMC the entire time because you got to be able to throw the football down the field. And that just wasn't a big thing for this 49ers team. I mean, the longest pass for Brock Purdy was 24 yards. That just can't happen. Longest for Patrick Mahomes was 52 yards, and it was a big bomb in the second quarter to McCole Hardman. So that can't be the case for the 49ers. They got to go figure that out. And Kyle Shanahan is some to blame in these big blowout or blown leads in big games is he sticks to his script too much. He doesn't adjust accordingly to what the defense is giving him, and he kind of just sticks to his playbook and doesn't really, you know, let the game come to him. He tries to take the game to uh the other team, and that just doesn't work out for him. So Shanahan has to work on that, and that's a big part. But moving on to another thing that I want to talk about is Chiefs and how they're looking like the next coming of the New England Patriots. I know everyone hates to see that, and everyone hates that. I personally had trouble with the Patriots, but there's just so many similarities that this Kansas City, dynasty has with the New England dynasties. Midway through for instance, for this season, I mean, midway through the season, both teams are struggling. People are wondering, oh, yep, the dynasty's over. They'll barely make the playoffs, and even if they make the playoffs, maybe they'll win one playoff game. They won't get the Super Bowl. They're done. They're finished. But then they somehow, they pick it up. They win a few games. They reach the playoffs. Odds are stacked against them in the playoffs. They have to go on the road. They have to play better overall teams. Like a Bills, like a Ravens, and they somehow squeak those games by and they win. And then people start to realize, like, oh, maybe the dynasty's not over with. Maybe they are still here. Maybe they just keep squeaking games out. They keep squeaking wins out, and then they somehow reach the Super Bowl. And then we're all just like, couldn't believe we bet against them. Couldn't believe we didn't think it was gonna happen. Maybe we just thought it was over with. They just didn't have another gear in their tank, and they did, and they reached the Super Bowl. And this is a similarity between Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. Is first halves look rough. You know, yesterday in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs couldn't get anything offensively going. I mean, they just couldn't do much. And then the second half, they come out, they go down the field, they put up points. Um, they get 10 points in the third quarter. They only had 3 in the first half. They get 6 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, 16 points in the second half, 3 points in the first half. I mean, for the 49ers defensively, had 10 points in the second quarter, didn't score to the fourth quarter where they put up 9 points. So, I mean, the second half adjustments from Andy Reid and Bill Belichick is just so eerily similar. I mean, there's countless times, countless Super Bowls where the Patriots are struggling in the first half. They come out in the second half, and it's just a completely different script, completely different team, and they come out victorious. And that's just a big similarity. And then going it over to I guess the baby goat and the actual goat in Mahomes and Brady, and they just make magical plays, keep their teams in it, are the heart and soul of their team, and they just they just they just make the plays. I mean, it's just that simple. They do it, quarter after quarter, game after game, moment after moment, down after down. They just somehow stick in it and stick around to end up winning these Super Bowls. And something that no one's gonna tell you is these special teams, man. Special teams matter, especially in these big games. Field position matters. You know, yes, if it recovering footballs, Chiefs recover one that 49ers muffed. They went in and scored a touchdown. The play right after that to MVS Marquez Valdes-Scantling, to go up and take the lead. Blocking kicks. They blocked Jake Moody yesterday. That's a big point. I mean, he makes the field goal or the extra point, probably not going to overtime. So special teams is just a big thing. And speaking of special teams, Bucker and Vinatieri, two guys that have just made clutch kicks year after year after year. Vinatieri winning the Super Bowl, making kicks. Bucker making kicks to beat the Buffalo Bills or to force an overtime against the 49ers, with a minute left or whatever. So it's just the similarities, the little details are just so similar between the Chiefs and the Patriots. And you know, Patriots dynasty lasted 20 years. I mean, we're only, about one fourth of the way through with this Chiefs teams. It's been 6 or 7 years. So I don't want to say it's going to be like another 20-year run, but I mean, it's looking pretty similar to the New England Patriots dynasty run. And speaking of the Chiefs and the Patriots, uh next show we'll get into what it means for legacies. There's been a lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, goat conversation. I'll get into that into all that next episode, and legacies and what this means for coaches, players, and for both sides, for the 49ers and Chiefs, and where both these teams go from next year, and looking forward into the future. And what this means for both these teams, and how do you recover if you're the 49ers? I mean, second Super Bowl in 4 years, you lose to the Chiefs again. Kansas City, you win your third Super Bowl, and your Chiefs are going to get better too as well. They go get another wide receiver. What else do they do? Do they go get a veteran, maybe wide receiver? Some veterans they kind of need on that wide receiver corps. So, we'll get into that next episode, and I'll explain to you why the most important Super Bowl in NFL history has already happened. Yes, the most important Super Bowl in NFL history has already happened. Welcome to leagues.